shows Find Your Own Voice, Lead from Within. With me today, I have Grant Morel, Amanda Murray, and Nick. I can't pronounce your name, so you can pronounce it to our audience. Over to you, Nick. Please introduce yourself to our audience and pronounce your surname, please.
Sure, certainly. So it's Nick Motichka.
Motichka.
I am the founder of a clothing brand that I am in the process of launching. This is something that's my lifelong passion, really. It took me better half of 40, well, a little over 40 years to figure it out and to jump out of my old life into just going for something that truly feels like a passion to myself. So I was a police officer for about 17 years prior to leaving that profession and going all in on my clothing brand. So that's a little bit about me. And today's topic is something that I picked called modern morality, what is happening in today's society. And some of the issues I'd like to discuss are morals declining in today's society? Have we become, and I guess what are some of those reasons why, if that is the case? Have we become desensitized? And are we more accepting of immoral behaviors? Those are some of the issues I'd like to discuss today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nick. Over to you, Amanda. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
My name's Amanda. I am a teacher, an author, and an illustrator, and I help people find their creative capacities within themselves. And I really love the topic that we're talking about today because I think it affects children so much. And I'm really, really excited to discuss this because it's definitely links in with my passions. And I think that it'll be fantastic. Grant?
Okay, well, I'll jump in then. My name is Grant Morel. I'm an international speaker, coach, trainer, international best-selling author, and as of the week before last, Speaker of the Year, which was a great, great honour. So over the last 19 years, myself and my international team have helped thousands of entrepreneurs, business owners and organisations across 15 countries. We've helped them to increase their profits by up to 200% in just a few short months, by working with a team, their systems, their mindset and their strategy, so that they can live a life of passion, purpose and freedom, and develop a business and a lifestyle that can become a legacy for generations to come. Today, I'm a man with a vision. I'm building a global movement of 1 million leaders to help them live life without limits, by helping them to clearly communicate their message with the world. That's who I am, that's what I do, and that's why I'm here. Over to you, Nomsa.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Grant. Did anyone put a message there, or was it just me? There was a sign for the message, but when I opened it, it was blank. So I'm not sure what's happening there.
No, there's nothing there.
Okay, awesome. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nick, for explaining the topic today. And I don't know if Grant wants to make a comment or Amanda wants to make a comment for what Nick has just said, because he just explained the topic. And let's see and take it from there.
I'll start. I really like this topic because it made me think about, I'm working on this book called Rethinking What It Means to Be Educated. And when I've been asking all these different people from all of these different walks of life, what is it that you want kids to learn in school, so that like what are the things that you think are the most important for them to learn at school? And one of my most successful friends, who's a accountant but owns her own business, I was like, what do you want your daughter to get out of school? And she's like, honestly, I just want them to be a good person. And I thought that was so powerful. I was like, this is coming from someone who, like, I grew up with all the way through school. Like, I think I've known her since I was 5 years old. And she was like always at the top of her class, always like a very hard worker. And she's one that I would be like, thought that she'd be like, we need to know this and this and this about math, and we need to know this and this and this. And she was like, I just want her to learn how to be a good person. And I thought that was just amazing. And I think that's something that, what if all parents just had that vision of like, I just want my kid to be a good person and to care about the world and to care about other people. How much different would our world be? And in one generation, how much would it shift?
Yeah,
For Amanda. That is really powerful, Amanda. That is really powerful. I think I've got that on my door basically for my children to, whatever they do in life, to remember who they are, remember where they come from, so they can be good people and save be a good person. I think it's amazing when you teach your children to be that, instead of having all these big dreams. And if children, they don't know the value of basically of who they are, the value of a person is like is priceless. You cannot put a price on it. And if you empower that person, that means they can change the world. So that's what we need to. Thank you so much, Grant or Nick.
No, I think that is a great point, and I think I've said it before. Is
Do
that
you have kids, by the way, Grant?
Sorry?
Do you have kids or
What? No,
do,
no.
do you have kids?
No.
You have.
But I was one though.
Pardon?
I was one. I have experience.
Oh, no. You have.
And it's often
I've heard
debated.
you talking about the kids. Is that your nephews or nieces?
If I speak to my kids, it's either somebody else's. Well, certainly somebody else's. But it could be nephews or nieces. It could be, yeah.
Yeah.
It could be. I can't remember the exact conversation, but possibly is. But you know me, since I'm 5 years old, I've been a keen observer of life. So
You're still a
I watch
kid.
people all over the world. I
You're
watch
still a
people.
kid because that kid lives within you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it lives within me and without me sometimes. But
Yeah.
no, I'm just kidding. But the point is, when I coach people, and I think I said this before, I go for a whole range of questions what people want to be. And you know, they come out first of all with the titles. I'm an empowered this, and I'm a visionary. Yeah, okay, whatever. You know, labels that society has given you, or as my friend would call, cathedral talk. He said if someone's in a cathedral, they have a certain range of vocabulary that they feel is suitable for that environment. And I think it happens in the coaching world a lot. There's a whole list of labels. Years ago, I was in management and I studied management, and there's a whole dialogue for management, and it was hysterical. I knew it all years ago, and I'm proud to say I don't know any of it now because the labels. I mean, you can learn and stick a label on anything. So people, first of all, will give you the label. They want to be this, they want to be, blah, 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 and then I strip it away. Yeah, great, super, fantastic, I'm impressed. Who are you? And I really drill down into who they are. And quite often, like, tears come, because you start getting to the real person. And what do you want? And this is like I was saying earlier, right? Before the show started, we was talking about events and things, and people ask me advice. So my first question is, what's your desired outcome? I can't tell you what the ingredients to the cake is unless I know what you want. If I know the desired outcome, I can help you with the ingredients. And when you drill it down, when you really strip everything away, most people want to be happy. And it goes hand in hand with what Amanda's students' parents said. I just want my kid to be happy. Yeah, a good person and happy. And define happiness how you will. If happiness is that red Ferrari outside your house, or a yacht, or living in the middle of nowhere, or whatever happiness is for you, or having a huge family. Like I've got one client and he's got 4 kids. So, I keep you busy. He said, no, I wish I had 10. I come from a family of 10. It feels small. Define it how you will. And my other friend doesn't want any children. She doesn't want any children at all. Never. Whatever makes you happy. So define happiness how you will, but when you strip it down, it's generally happiness. And I think with today's subject, declining morality, One of the biggest things I see playing out in society, which causes all kinds of problems, it's fear. Not the fear that people talk about, but the worst kind of fear, the fear that people don't talk about, the hidden fear, which brings out bravado, which brings out offence when we take offence. As a great mentor of mine once said, not to me, but generally speaking, he said, I don't speak to offend anybody, but if you choose to take offence, that's your business. He speaks frankly and clearly, but with love and respect. He says it clearly, but you may not agree with him. And if you choose to take offence, that's up to you. That's not the way it was intended. And that's it. But I think in this day and age, we are very, very quick to take offence at something. Oh, Amanda looked at me in that way, or her tone of voice changed a little bit. I think she meant this, and I could be completely wrong, right? But you can then choose to take offence at that. And from that, you then start to put up bravado and say, I want to have my say because I've got right to say. And then it will come across as an argument. Where when I find people are less fearful, they're more comfortable in their own skin, they're more willing to look stupid because who cares? We all make mistakes, right? When you're willing to just look stupid and just not let your ego go, you become less fearful, more open, you take less offence, and communication increases. And when you do, I believe our morality to others is increased. Because we're not trying to prove anything. We're not trying to prove anything. We're happy with who we are. And then when you do that, you're not trying to promote and push yourself so much. And that's a beautiful place to be. And that's how I just wanted to frame the conversation from my point of view. Over to you guys. What do you think? Does that make sense? Or do you see it from a completely different point of view? What do you think, Nomsa?
It's going to pass it over to Nick, because he just told us what the topic was and he's not really made a comment about it. So I'd love to hear his comment first.
Yeah, Grant, I love what you were just talking about, how fear is causing so much of the issues in today's world, and I 100% agree. The opposite of fear is love, and right now we're just stuck right in the middle of this thick, gooey fear that we're just being bombarded with every day through our media and online and everywhere we get any information. It's a school shooting here, it's murder here, it's just all dark and fear. And then look at what's happened in the last 2 years. Of course, that was just a massive fear campaign, and it just brings us to a bad place as humans, because exactly what you described, Grant, and how I described it, with fear being the opposite of love. And for me, I personally believe that our media has a huge part to play in what's happening in the world, in desensitizing us, in just this nonstop fire hose of fear that they're spraying on us. So from my perspective, I think that's one of our main problems in society is comes from our media. I'd love to hear what you guys think about that.
I 100% agree with you. And this is something that I've reflected on a whole bunch. This one incident that has happened with my daughter in the last 2 years. She's never lived in a COVID feared house. I'm just like, we're going to live our life as best we can, as normal as we can, and go out and enjoy nature and just be outside as much as possible. And we were skiing and a kid fell and she was down. Ella was down a little bit further than me. And I stopped and I helped the kid, and because his skis were all tangled and it was like 1.5 feet of snow. You couldn't find his skis. So I got him help and I got him up and I got him down to his parents. And then I skied over to Ella and she freaked out at me. She was like, Mom, you're gonna get COVID. Don't touch other people. Don't talk to other people. She was losing her mind on me. And she skied down the hill without me and just was like so angry. And then finally, by the time I got down to the bottom, she had calmed down a little bit. And I was like, honey, I am always going to stop and help a kid, no matter what. No matter what. I am a teacher. I am an empath. If a child needs help, no matter what, I am going to stop and help them. That is like my duty. And I said, I'm so not afraid of COVID. Like, even if I had gotten COVID from helping that kid, I wouldn't have been afraid of it, because I knew in every ounce of my body that if I got COVID, I would be fine. And so that just like tore me to my core, because my daughter, from school and from the media and from everything else, she was about 7 at the time, maybe 8 at the time that this happened. And she just had so much fear in her that she just like lost her mind on me in the middle of the ski hill. That's probably the safest place I could have ever helped someone. and just like so much fear and so much anger and towards helping other people. And that just like, that really concerned me about children's mental health and what was going on in the world when children are being taught, not from me, definitely not from our house, but outside, when she's outside in the community or listening to the news, that it's, you don't help anyone because you could get COVID. And that really, really, really bothered me, that's how our society was shifting, and how it was starting in our children to shift that way. It deeply concerns me, and still just does to this day, that kids are afraid to go and help other people because they're afraid that they're going to get this illness that's basically a cold for them, for most children, not all, most.
I actually agree with you, Amanda. I went to a supermarket once, and I think I might have touched just the trolley. Somebody else, one of the shoppers, the woman, she was doing shopping, she went mad. She went mad that she shocked me. She was like, "Why are you touching my trolley? How would you feel if I was to touch your trolley?" I was like, "I'm sorry, I'll feel normal." And then she got really mad, and I kept saying, "I'm sorry." She kept going on and on and on until she realized that the only word that comes out of my mouth was, "I'm sorry." I'm sorry, because I didn't mean to. You know, like when you pass through something, or you pass through someone, they parked the trolley there, they're shopping, and you want to touch something, and then you touch it by mistake. Oh, she went so angry, and I was so shocked. I was like, is this how basically it was actually in 2020, I think a month ago or 6 weeks ago, she got really angry. And I was like, oh my God, I thought it was just me. Amanda, she went so crazy. And I got really, really shocked. Now, when I go shopping, I have to make sure that I'm touching no one, and I'm touching nobody's trolley. Honestly, she went so mad. She went really, really angry. And I agree with you, Nick, when you say fear and love, basically, they all basically linked together. And the fear of the opposite is love. And you say it comes from our media. I think that is basically, I was watching, there was somebody from ITV1, the girl that just died from cancer. I'm watching her on social media. I've been following her story on social media, and she's been basically putting her life out there, not fearing death, but she was end of life, and she was out and about, and her family were taking her out, and she was like, "I'm showing people that you don't need to fear. You don't need to fear death. You don't need to stop. Even the doctors tell you that you have so much time to live. You don't need to fear. You need to continue living your life." And I was like, this is the story that I'm loving it. But if you look at, like, since the COVID, there's so much everyone is predicting something. There's gonna be a World War III. There's gonna there's gonna be something, another pandemic. I'm like, where do all these people get all this information from? So I agree with you, Nikki and Grant as well. And Grant, you were saying you have to define your own happiness. What makes you happy? And your term that you just used, what makes you happy? We didn't have a home, like Nick was telling me that he's downgrading from a ridiculous living in a house that he doesn't need to a normal life. And we didn't have a home for 7 months. I didn't tell you guys. And we basically, after lockdown, we decided we needed to downgrade. But last minute, the people where we needed to exchange, they changed their mind. But then somebody wanted to swap and come in. Those who wanted to move into our house, and I was like, what are we going to do now? We don't have a home to move in. We had this thing planned that we're gonna move in, everything is gonna be smooth, and now they've changed their mind. And I remember coming back, it was like, we can't let these people down and say we're not moving in, they have to wait, and we don't know how long on our side. And I was like to everyone, we're moving into our to my father-in-law, and everyone is like, what now? And I'm like, yes. And by doing that, I taught my children that life is not about materially. Happiness comes from within. And that made me happy, like waiting and handing over the house to say, you can have the house, I'll wait for my own to come. And that made me happy, even though it was something that I wasn't used to living in a small house. But I was still happy because Grandy, you were saying happiness, you have to decide your own happiness. And for me, my happiness was looking at my children. Because of the pandemic, everyone is burying their families each and every day. But I have my family. So I felt that I didn't have a right to whine and say, by the way, I'm struggling to find a home. And I just thought, let me just be positive and keep looking for the house and find the happiness. The happiness comes from within. So thank you so much, Grant, for that. And thank you so much for Nick for that. I think our generation, they need to understand that you create your own life, you create your own happiness. And Amanda, I like this that your friend said, I want my children to learn to be a person. And for me, everyone gets confused. When I make decisions, people get confused. So I'm like, you don't have to get confused, because sometimes happiness is what makes you, when the happiness is found within, you were never going to be disappointed. Or whether I couldn't get a house that I wanted at the time, but I was never disappointed because the happiness is within. So for me, that is powerful, Grant. Thank you so much. Over to you, Grant, or Amanda, or Nico, whoever wants to take over.
Nick, do you have something to add to it? Because had the start of the.
I mean, you guys have all said very valid and great points, and just thinking about how sort of tying it kind of all together. So with the fear that we have, you can see how even in that situation, Amanda, your daughter, how she kind of forgot almost some basic morals in that moment, like helping other people that needed assistance, and how that fear that she had overrode that moral that and it's just interesting, and it just that's obviously a small example, but I mean, you can see that in larger, more chaotic and violent situations in the world all the time, where when people are living in that constant state of fear, they do things that are against their own morals even. And I think that's an interesting point to bring up, is how even if you are a good person, under the right circumstances, with the right influences, being media, being school, being whatever's going on in the world, how we can slide basically and forget what's truly important. And then just to kind of bring it full circle, so Nomsa, with how we were talking about how happiness comes from within, and all of that, it's just it's so true, because the external world, the anything outside of ourselves, the fancy shiny car, the big house, none of it will ever change your level of happiness beyond in the moment, of course. But yeah, long term, it all has to come from inside. And I just think, besides obviously the external causes of this fear and everything that we're constantly bombarded by, is I think it could even have a bit of a health cause as well. I was reading something recently where people are so unhealthy from those external influences, being in that constant state of fear, but then even with their own diet, and people's gut linings are just destroyed, and so they're in this constant internal struggle basically, where their body isn't healthy, and then that then can cause behavior stuff that's outside of their character and against their deep seated and all the morals that are their foundation. Those can be overridden by a state of dis-ease. And I just think that's an interesting thing to bring up as well.
I thought of another example of just like this is even like my personal example. So we were eating lunch at the ski hill and with my cohort family. and they like my daughter, we were all sitting there with my one friend group that during COVID you were allowed to have your cohort family. Anyways, this other group of people walked up and they knew my friends that we were sitting with, and they all got up and hugged the other people. And my daughter was just like, mom, we're gonna get COVID. We're gonna get COVID because they're hugging them. I'm like, take a breath. Like, take a breath. You can hug other people. Like, this is the state that we got with children, is that they were afraid to hug other people. And they were afraid to have people that they knew hug other people. And I just was like, I shouldn't have to have this conversation with my child. I should not have to tell her that it is not okay to hug people. It is okay to hug people. Everybody needs hugs. We all need hugs. And you can hug people that you know. Like, you can even hug some kid that's crying just because they're crying and they need a hug. Like, this is the insanity that we came to, that children are afraid to hug other people. And children are afraid to hug their friends at school. This is literally what happened. And it just like it aches me to my core. And I bring this back to something that I learned just this recently, because there's a new series on Netflix, and it's about the like Mormons and they're like where they have like multiple wives and all this. I don't know exactly know what it is, but it's about the Mormon religion and the Mormon like cults that are not a cult, but whatever it is, and where they have multiple wives. And one of my friends, his mom has actually saved her niece and stuff from this, because she was one of the like many wives of these people. And through this documentary, like actually part of the documentary that's on Netflix is actually from her story. And they learned that it takes 3 hours to brainwash someone. If there's somebody vulnerable, it takes 3 hours. That's it. So we've had 2 years worth of brainwashing. And if it only takes 3 hours, like how long is that going to take us to like unlearn that fear? Right? And I think that's something that's really concerning for everyone, is if you're just living in this constant fear and you're being told all of these fear things. What if we change that to like, because in any situation, it could be positive or negative. There could be love or hate. And what if we just change that to a more positive outlook on everything, and a more loving outlook on everything, and more of like support. Like we can support people through the pandemic by being kind, by doing like how would it have changed if we had not come from a place of fear, and we had come from a place of kindness, compassion, and empathy, and understood some people are going to be scared, some people are not, some people are going to just choose to live their life the best they can no matter what, and not live in fear. And I think that if you were not living in fear, you were almost like ostracized by society, because you should be afraid of this. Don't you know there's a deadly pandemic going on? And I'm like, yeah, and I could get hit by a bus tomorrow, and I'm going to choose to live my life and have fun and enjoy the time that I have, because you only get one life. And if you chose to live in your house in fear for 2 years, that is absolutely your choice. You should have that choice. But I chose to live my own life and to do as much as I possibly could the whole time, so that if I died tomorrow, I could say, even through the pandemic, I had amazing experiences. And I think that's something that maybe should have been considered, and maybe our mental health wouldn't have taken such a nosedive if people would have just had that perspective. Because I was like, are my chances of dying from COVID higher than dying in a car crash? Nope. So I'm going to live my life. Right? Because I go in my car every single day, and I could die every single day on my way to work, every day. But nobody's afraid to get in their car and drive. And yet my chance of dying in my car is higher than my chance of dying of COVID. And I think that's something that's just like, it's mind-blowing to me that people just lived in complete fear for this amount of time, when we go out and we do things that are risky every single day. And you have the choice to live an empowered, happy life where you're inspired by things, and where you see the joy and the gratitude in even the little things in life, like just stopping and smelling the flowers. Like right now, my lilac tree is blooming, and every time I walk by it, I go and I smell it, because it just smells absolutely amazing, because there's only a few days or a few weeks of the year that it smells like that. And so every time I go past it, I just stop and I smell it, and I'm like, Ella, come over here, come smell the tree with me. She's like, you are crazy, Mom. I'm like, but it's only going to be here for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then it's gone. And then we have to wait an entire year for the lilac tree to come back. And so you just enjoy the time that you have. Enjoy it, because you never know what could happen tomorrow.
Yep, certainly enjoying the time. It is a great thing, and it's I remember it's not long before I mapped something over to the world of music, and I remember people talking about, it was a documentary about Elvis Presley, and about famous people who love Elvis Presley, and various people were, and there was one of the British comedians who said he remembers, apparently, if you're an Elvis fan, and I'm not the biggest aficionado on Elvis, but he did a thing called the '68 special. Apparently, he did a special thing on TV in 1968 where he wore that black leather jacket, which people say was the best in the world, and it was legendary. There was no recording, right? You couldn't record it on your TV in those days. And this comedian was saying that's what made it special. He was sitting like this far from the screen, and his parents were saying, "Don't get too close to the screen; it'll ruin your eyes." He said he was afraid to blink because it was going to be gone, and he was like taking in every nuance. He said it was the most special moment of his life, as he remembered. He said, had that been recorded, it would have been. One of my colleagues, one of my trainers on human behaviour, remembered being in Britain on New Year's Eve and watching the fireworks down by the river in London, and he was watching them, and he said the saddest thing was the spectacle was out there, and everybody was like this with their phone recording it. It's just nobody was just sitting there watching it and just taking photographs in their mind. and remembering the moment. They was missing the moment, but recording the facsimile image. And I thought that's an interesting point, a very interesting point. And to be honest, I probably would have recorded some of it. I would have watched some and recorded some. And I'm like, yeah, that's a really good point. And I remember distinctly being on holiday years and years ago and seeing a beautiful scenery with the beach, sea, and some cliffs. And I didn't have my camera with me. And it was before, like, cameras were really a big thing on phones. And I thought, damn, I haven't got my camera. And I thought, I'll just have to take a photograph in my mind. And I remember just looking for ages at that scenery, just like almost going like that in my mind. Yeah. And then and just taking almost like a panoramic picture in sections in my mind. And I can still see that now. I can still see it because I took that photograph so well in my mind. And it's about really just taking in those special moments. I never like to think of end of life, even though we have to sometimes. But you know what? I find special moments in everyday life. Sometimes just watching a TV program with a mug of tea is, for me, it's just fantastic. It's like, this is great. If I was a multimillionaire, I'd probably do the same. I'd do other things too, but I'd do that because simple pleasures are wonderful, and I believe it's. Please correct me if anyone's listening and I've got this wrong. I believe it's monks, and it may be Buddhist monks. They have a thing called a slow day, and I think it's one day a year. Again, I'm paraphrasing the hell out of this, so please, correct me if I'm wrong. But I believe they have a one day a year, which is called a slow day. That day, they, as the name suggests, they do everything slowly. So if they walk, they do normal things, but just slowly. And if they walk down the road, you think if you walk from your house to the bus stop, the train station, whatever, you kind of, you got your end goal in mind and you go. On a slow day, you don't. On a slow day, you stop and you look down at the cracks between the paving stones. You look at the weeds coming out of it and look at them. And look at them and wonder and notice and observe everything around you. The incredible beauty that we're surrounded by every moment of every day that we just choose to walk past. And they say it's one of those special days when you have a slow day and you just sit there and take things in. And something I do every day is I have a bit of a ritual. When I wake up, I look out of this window, I do that, and then I open the front door, breathe in some air, and just look around just for a few minutes. Don't matter how busy I'm going to be that day. I just spend just a few minutes just looking around, looking at the leaves on the tree, how the sun reflects off a wooden fence, or looking at the car and just smelling the smells of nature and just taking that in. It's what I have to do. I said, don't walk past this. It's too special to miss. There's beauty all around you. Sure, we all like the great times, the ritzy restaurants, or maybe not, or just the walks in nature is your thing. We all like those things, but don't miss the small stuff, because that's where the real beauty is. And when I coach people, yes, you want your end goal, but it's not like just take a deep breath and hold on and go through hell until you reach it. Please put those staging posts along the way, and when you hit them, celebrate. Make every day a beautiful party. It makes life such a great journey, so that hopefully, if you do live life like that, you've used your life up. Like tokens, like tokens. If you use them up, hopefully by the time you get to leave this planet, hopefully then you'll say, you know what, I'm ready to go. I've done everything. And I'm ready to go to the next party now. That's my simplistic way of looking at it, because I'd hate to think I haven't done enough. Because I had an experience years ago. I had an accident and thought I was dying. And I thought, not now. I can't go now. I haven't done enough. And since then, I've been a little bit busy to try to cram things in. Because if it happens again, I hope I then say, yeah, you know what? It's kind of like the right time. I might be very naive in that view, but I hope not. And that's the way I look at it. So make every day a special day and look for the beauty all around you. A colleague I know had something wrong with him in hospital, a bit of a close call. And when he came out, he said, wow, makes you appreciate everything. Even the gloomy, overcast days are special when you really, yeah. It's a bit of a reframe when you get it in perspective. What a pleasure, what an honour, what a joy it is. And how great it is to be here doing what we're doing and talking to wonderful people. That's just what I wanted to share. Over to you.
To you, Nick. You're going to go first, Nick?
Sure, yeah. So, and as you guys were talking, both you guys, Grant and Amanda, just made me think like how it's amazing that you guys do stop and smell the roses, literally, or the lilacs, or yeah, open that front door and take in that fresh air. But how rare that is in our modern society for people to take those moments and enjoy it. A couple years ago, it was one of those just amazing sunsets where the whole sky is just lit up pink, like from every direction you look. And so I was looking out the front window of my house and just taking it in. And a neighbor I saw come out of his house, and he was pushing his garbage cart to the curb. And he had his head down. He was just looking at the ground, basically, like just 3 steps ahead of him. Put his garbage can out at the street, walked back in. And like, this was one of those sunsets that you couldn't miss. Like, it was every direction. And so I was watching him just to see if he was even going to look up at it or anywhere, basically, besides 3 steps in front. And I saw, as he was about halfway up, he noticed, he looked up, and then that quickly he went back down, pushed his garbage can, or went back in his garage, closed it up. And it was just, it's just sad for him, really. Just like you couldn't even take like a second and just look at the amazing sky, like in that moment, because those sunsets are rare, right? When it's that entire sky. And it just, yeah, like I said, it just made me a little bit sad for him, in a way. Just like, what's going on in your world, like where you're so busy, you're so wrapped up that you can't just stop and take that moment. So I think that's amazing that well, you guys on this call do take those moments, because I think that's so important. Yeah, and moments with kids growing up, like those milestones we were talking a little bit before the call, and how those moments where your kid wants a piggyback or wants to sit on your lap or wants to hold your hand, or in the moment if it's hot or whatever. I know there's those times where you're thinking like, oh man, I really don't want a kid on me right now, but how short those moments are in the grand scheme of things, and how if you don't enjoy them, they just pass you by and you'll never get them back. So I think that's amazing. And then I'll just have one more story. With the cell phone thing, Grant, how you're talking, how people are so wrapped up in in capturing the moment in, like, yeah, in terrible quality and not anything close to the real experience. So they're so caught up getting that on film that they're not actually experiencing it. And so this week, actually, my 2 older boys had a track meet at their school. And so I went, and just because being in a small town, they invite parents to things like this. And so it's something I actually really like about small towns, is how there's a lot more parent involvement. So, and anyways, so went, and I was taking this in, and my boys were in a couple of different races that I was able to watch, and they I ended up watching them both win like a gold medal or whatever in whatever event, which was so cool. And then my wife was at work that day, and so she wasn't able to take it in. And then got home, and then I realized, oh no, I didn't take any photos, I didn't take any videos for my wife, and I felt terrible. But now, actually, after having just had this conversation with you guys, I thought, oh well, that's actually maybe not such a bad thing, because I was truly there, present, enjoying the moment. While it would have been nice, of course, for me to have captured that for my wife, for myself, I was just in it. I was in that moment and just taking it all in. So I don't feel as bad now is what I'm trying to get at, because yeah, those moments are quick, and if you don't capture them here, if it's on your phone, it's just not the same at all.
Well, think
Yeah,
about. I mean, that's Nick. That's brilliant. It just jumped in my mind as you were saying that. Where you saw it, you could relay that verbally to your wife. Think about reading a book. It's non-visual, but it creates images, your images in your mind, right? You read two dimensions. Some people love reading. Not my preferred modality, if I'm honest, but some people adore reading. They just books. But you read it, you get an image, you get an emotion, you go somewhere. So you don't need to see the image. It could be audible. You could tell your wife about what it looked, the smile on their face, the way they did, the way they interacted with their friends, the look of the teacher's face, how proud you felt, and you felt blah, 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 blah. And your wife's going to get the same experience, she's going to experience it by osmosis, really, by you reliving it. So there's many ways to convey a message. Years ago, we didn't have cameras. We had town criers, right? We'd walk around and ring the bell and say, hear ye, hear ye, hear ye, and get the scroll out and read the news of the day. And perhaps we can be like that. The art of conversation, the art of communication is diminishing, for sure. It is diminishing. But it is one of the most beautiful things if it's versed well. And you've got a wonderful opportunity to do that, even if you don't have photographic evidence.
I really think that the phone conversation is so interesting, because I've written on do more things that make you forget forget about your phone. I've written some articles on that. But I also think there needs to be a balance, right? Where you like take a quick picture and then you put your phone away, right? When I'm hiking, I don't have my phone out the whole time and like, but I will get to the top, take a picture, put my phone away, and I think that's something that's so important. Like when we didn't have cameras on our phones, we took our cameras when we knew we wanted to do a specific thing with them. Like we knew I'm going on a hike, I'm going to take a picture at the top of that mountain, right? And so there was more purpose to having your camera with you. But now we have our cameras with us all the time. So it's just like kind of going back in time, that with that little bit of thinking of like, I'm only going to pull it out when I want to snap that one shot, just so I have it, right? And have more of a balance of them, instead of like having it with you everywhere and snapping and Snapchatting your whole life, right? And missing out on those true moments because you're too busy looking at your phone. And there's actually a children's book called If You Give a Mouse an iPhone. And it's such a cute story. And I read it to my students all the time. And it really is essentially the mouse misses out on this entire big trip that they go on, because he's there playing on the phone the whole time, completely ignoring the other person. And I read it to the kids and I get them to talk about like, why would I read this to you? What is the purpose behind it? And they always have something to say about that. I also wanted to comment on the rainy day, because just yesterday it was the last day of school here, and we took my kid out for dinner with some friends, and then our plan was to go to the skate park. Well, just as we got to the skate park, it started raining. And instead of being like, oh, it's raining, let's just go home, we just pulled out the umbrellas and the kids skateboarded. And then when it really rained, they started playing in the rain. There was nobody else on the skate park. It was just me and my daughter and her two friends and the two other parents. And they just played and they rolled around in the wetness and like just had the best time ever. And then there was like a double rainbow. And so I pulled out my phone and I snapped a picture of the rainbow. And I pulled out my phone and I snapped a picture of the girls sliding down on their butts down this big ramp, because there was no one there. It's usually like a super busy skate park, and they were just like, oh my goodness, nobody's here. It's amazing. And I was like, yeah, like, because nobody else is out in the rain. And then just as quickly as the rain came, it dried up. And by the time, like maybe half an hour later, it was dry enough for them to skateboard. And there was maybe 3 people there that came in addition to us, because that rain scared everybody away at 6:30. And I just was like, oh, this was such a cool night. Like beautiful rainbows, kids rolling around in the wetness. And just like, I just sat and watched with my umbrella and then put my umbrella away after it stopped raining. and the kids looked like they all peed their pants because they were sliding all over the ground. But it just was like bringing that fun back, right? Like just being kids and being in the moment and living in the fun. And then also I wanted to comment one thing on the monks walking, because I have read Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty, and I believe in the one book he stated how they do the same walk every single morning, and every single morning they are to do this exact same walk over and over and over again, and just to be present. And at first he thought that this was like, this is weird and dumb, like we're doing the same walk every single day. And then eventually he started to realize there's so much that he doesn't know, that he didn't notice before, and each day there was something he didn't notice before, and each day there was something. And then afterwards, eventually he was like, the morning walk, the same walk every single day, was the best part of like the day. And I just like, I think about that, and I started to do that with my students this year, where we would do a walk and just be present and just go slow, and then we talk about what it was that we noticed when we came back. But then I got busy and I forgot about it, and we didn't do it as much as I had hoped. But just for coming back to that, I think I need to bring that back to my classroom again too, to just like slow down and be present, and take notice of the things that you don't necessarily notice. And it's amazing what can come out of that. And even doing like photo walks with kids is getting them to go out and take pictures and be present and take some photos, and then pick their like one or two favorite and then share them. And it's unbelievable, even if you just give kids like half an hour to do something like this, the photos that they come back with, like they're from perspectives you would have never thought of. And it's so cool to just like be like, wow, like what were you thinking when you took this picture? It's and like, how did you decide to get that angle? And that they just come up with the most beautiful pictures, even just in the school playground, of just being present, and then picking their one that's just like, that's my moment.
Amanda, that that is powerful, Amanda. I was talking to one of my friends yesterday, and I said to her, was it live? And I said to her, I really love when children are being children, and it's nice when I look at my children. They go down the river. Yes, they can go swimming. They go swimming and learn to swim. But sometimes we live near river. River Thames is just out there. With their friends, they go to River Thames. They swim. Summertime, they just have fun. And I was talking to her yesterday, and I was like, it's nice to see kids being kids. Just living this normal life that we know, because our old one, modern old morality is being basically what is happening. Our world is being replaced by this new world that you have to basically, like on social media, you have to be seen to be this, which is in real life you are not that person. There are some people who basically go and hire a car and take pictures and just to put them on social media. Like Amanda, what you are describing, and Grant, what you were saying, Nick, that the pictures, when you take a picture, Grant, you are right. When you take a picture, when something like fireworks are going on, you miss out because you're not really in the moment. You are in the moment of actually taking pictures and sharing the memory that you yourself have not experienced it. So you need to be in the moment. I took my daughter to South Africa, my youngest one, 2016, and it was raining. Amanda, you were talking about the rain, and the poor girl, because the African kids, they hang out outside. Like if they see a child, like next door neighbors, if they don't know that child, they'll come and say would you like to come, invite you to come and play outside? So it started raining, and the kids didn't leave to go inside. They just continued playing. My daughter was so surprised. She was like, wow, this is amazing. She was wearing clothes, white clothes. She just sat there and played in the mud and played and played and played. I could see the joy in her eyes. She was having fun. And after she's finished in the clothes, they had to go to the bin. And to her, it was an experience because here, like in the UK, you have to be basically, no, you can't go in the mud. You can't. You have to, please don't go in the mud. Please don't do this. Please don't do this. When people sees you doing things, they'll think you're weak or like you're odd or something. So I like it when you say basically enjoying the rainy day outside with the kids and grant the pictures. And I think, well, what's his name? Robin. Robin says that he suggests that he says to save your soul and to save your state, save, save your soul and save your state. So what it means is ask yourself what you can do for your country, not what your country can do for you. And I've had this term with one of the pastors as well. He was saying when people are basically sharing testimonies, they are like, God gave me a house. God gave me this a miracle. No one has ever said, oh, wow, I had a dream. God is showing me that I should be a helper. I should go and volunteer my time to maybe to a school or do something. So I think it is just have to, okay, no, it's fine. So it is fine. And they were saying no one has ever said, if you listen to every miracle, people always say, God gave me this miracle. God gave me this. No one has ever said, God wants me to donate my money or God wants me to go and help out just for one day in the moment to help out for the needs. And it was like, it's kind of weird how this world, and it was like people go to church and when the pastor wants something to be done in church, they want to know how much they're going to get paid, because now in this world is all about what I can get out of doing something. So I find that really amazing. And I think our own world is the world that we create ourselves, like the way Grant was saying, and what makes us happy in life, and whatever we think that is normal. And I know now COVID is gone, and I hear people saying there's gonna be another vaccine, and I'm like, is the world obsessed with a vaccine? And I'm like, how many vaccine are we gonna have? People already have 4 vaccine or 3 vaccine, and they're talking about having another booster winter time. I'm like, this world is gone bonkers. So I don't know. Any words of encouragement before we leave, Grant?
No. Not regarding the subject. No, just kidding.
It's
You
just
know,
laugh. And
it's
actually, that's a good one. Just laugh. Just have some
yeah.
fun.
Well, you know, laughing yoga is something which I do a lot. You know, you in life, you can't control everything.
Yeah,
You can't. Unfortunately, we can't control everything. But
yeah,
if people spend more time focusing on the things that we can control ourselves, and control is an oppressive word, but so replace the word with whatever you wish. But just spend more time on the things that you can affect. There's a nice word. The things that you can positively affect yourself. That's a better thing. And those other things that worry us out there become smaller. And we could normally have a hand in affecting most things. But again, if you go back to monks, I believe they have a whole thing about just letting go. Just letting go and just let it be. Just accept. And it's easier said than done. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I've got this thing nailed down, because I really haven't. But, if you just try to remind yourself sometimes, stop fighting. Stop pushing against stuff. Just let go. Like when you're in the sea and you're trying to beat the tide. If unless you need to get back to shore, unless you need to be so, it's really quite nice if you just drift and let the tide take you somewhere. Sometimes don't fight it. You can always change direction when you want, but it's just an approach. It's just a frame of doing things. And I remember during lockdown, one of my friends who worries about everything. Said, oh my God! It's not, we're not going to be able to go to the supermarket and get food. Of course we could. I said, well, that's not been decided, has it? I said, the country will not let us starve. Right? They're not. If it stops people from bulk buying so it's all fair, that's okay by me. That sounds like a good thing. But there might be soldiers in the street. And I said, how lucky we are. I said, if we have soldiers in the street protecting us and making sure we're safe, how lucky we are. I'm very full. I will open the door and make them a cup of tea. And she said, I never thought of it like that. And I said, I know. That's why I said it. Just look at it differently. Just see the good in it. If they're going to stop people from running around going crazy and bulk buying, that's good. That means a little old lady down the road isn't going to be without food. That's a good thing. We're lucky we live in a country where that does happen. Of course, it never happened because we didn't need it to happen. They just said buy 2 cans and this and that, and people by and large complied. But we worry. Was it Mark Twain said something? Was it about in life we worry about an awful lot of things, and some of them actually happen. Meaning that the vast majority of things we worry about never materialize anyway. So, I'm the worst culprit, but you have to remind yourself sometimes that, just focus on what you can affect. And when you focus it from a positive frame, be surprised how so many problems melt away. And at least if you do have a problem that doesn't melt away, you've got more bandwidth to deal with it because you're not worried about the small stuff. Okay, so and enjoy every day and try and live life at ease so that you are not at dis-ease. Man, thank you for bringing that one up. This is a great point. Then life will go smoother for you. And the more smooth you are and more open and less scared you are around other people, guess what? You become a leader, and it stops them or helps them to stop becoming fearful. And they let go of the pretense, and you get to deal with a real person. And underneath the surface, most people are quite nice if they just let go of fear and drop the pretense and drop the shield that we all put up to defend ourselves. That's my words of encouragement. Over to you, Nomsa.
Much, Grant. Over to you, Amanda, please. Any words of encouragement before we leave?
Yeah, Grant's comment on the monks, I just found this one that it just absolutely popped into my mind about letting go, because it says a senior monk and a junior monk were traveling together. At one point, they came to a river with a strong current. As the monks were preparing to cross the river, they saw a very young and beautiful woman who was also attempting to cross. The woman asked if they could help her cross to the other side. The 2 monks glanced at one another because they had taken vows not to touch a woman. Then, without a word, the older monk picked up the woman and carried her across the river, placed her gently on the other side, and carried on with his journey. The younger monk couldn't believe what had just happened. After rejoining his companion, he was speechless. Then, after an hour passed without a word between them. 2 more hours passed, then 3. Finally, the younger monk couldn't contain himself any longer and blurted out, as a monk, we are not permitted to touch a woman. How could you then carry a woman on your shoulders? The older monk looked at him and replied, Brother, I set her down on the other side of the river. Why are you still carrying her? I think that is such a powerful quote. And I heard it a long time ago. And so when Grant just told me that, I was it just gave me shivers because I searched it up on the phone really quickly. But I think that's so important. And I think the other thing that is really important, especially with the topic of morals, is how are we bringing up children to raise them to have good morals and to just be genuinely good people? Because I know when my daughter gets a report card or something, I just want to know if she's being kind in class, and if she's meeting grade level in reading and math. Other than that, is she being kind? Is she being compassionate? Is she helping other people when they need help? Those are the things that I think are really important. And I wonder if everyone switched to think about that, and to ask their children that, and to ask their children's teachers that, how would we see a shift in society? Because if we started to focus on those things, I think we would even bring up the kids' marks and in everything, because there would be kindness, compassion, and empathy in. And when you do that, you raise kids' self-confidence. And when the kids are self-confident, they're more willing to try. And so I just really think around the moral piece, like, when you are kind, it spreads. Kindness spreads like like a wildflower fire. And just doing that extra little bit to show kindness and compassion, it can go a really long way.
Much. Thank you so much, Amanda. Nick, any words of encouragement before we leave?
Those are tough to follow there, Grant and Amanda. Those were amazing. I was, as you guys were talking, I was just thinking how, to bring it full circle with the morality issue, is I think one of the ways to counteract any sort of a moral decline is to be more in the moment, to be more grounded, to hug that tree and not worry about what the person passing by thinks or doesn't think. Stop and smell that lilac tree. I think that in itself gets you out of that fear place and puts you into more of the love place, which is what the world needs more of. Absolutely. And so I think that would be a really good way to counteract some of the craziness that's going on in the world, is just to be more in the moment. And ironically or not, in the label of my clothing, I have a little kind of quote or saying. So it's something that every time you put on one of my items, it's hopefully a reminder, and it's, I relax, I let go, my life is in perfect flow. And so I just think, like with some of the things that Grant were saying, is just, like, just accept it. You can't change the weather today. You can't change who your political leader is today. So sometimes you just have to, work on the things that you can work on, and just let go of those bigger piece items, and just, keep your head in a positive place. And because you 100% control your own destiny with your thoughts, with your words, with your actions. And so when you can focus on the things that you can actually influence and change, I think that's an amazing place to be, is just have that awareness, and then to keep your thoughts positive too. And then you attract all the amazing things in the world that get you to where you want to go. And just stay in the moment would be my advice.
I have one more thing about hugging trees. Teach your kids to hug trees too. My daughter used to like run around and hug trees all the time, and it was so cute. We'd be on a hike and she'd run up to a tree and then hug it, and then run up to another tree and hug it. And it was just like, one time we went to the Christmas lights at Spruce Meadows, and she just was like running to all the trees, hugging them. And it was just like the cutest thing ever. So don't be afraid to hug trees even as an adult, because your kids will see it and then they'll just like get inspired by it as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Amanda, Nick, and Grant. And for me, basically, from what everyone has just said, I would just say stay connected to the world. Don't disconnect yourself to the world by being busy on social media, or busy basically with things that, if you look at it, if we put a video like a naked man on the video and send it on any part of social media, it will go viral for the wrong reason. So go viral for the right reasons, and stay connected to your own world. The world basically is your own world. and you create your own world. So stay connected in that world and create your own life. Like Grant was saying, that your happiness, you create your own happiness. And Nick said, it doesn't matter who the leader is or whatsoever. We might want to say we're never gonna get what we want. When the leaders are campaigning, basically they'll tell us what they think we want to hear. And once they're there, I remember, Amanda, you went through hell with COVID rules and stuff, and I was sitting on the other side and I was like, wow, we are being blackmailed basically with the pandemic instead of being helped. So stay connected to your own world. And we are here at Ngozi Talk Shows Monday to Friday, 1 p.m. time, UK time. So please get in touch with our coaches and stay connected with us. God bless and live with grace.